Hello students, now welcome back in our class. Now today we will discuss basically about the sexual reproduction. We will continue with our discussion with the plants, and today our main aim will be to discuss the sexual reproduction. Now before discussing the process of sexual reproduction, first of all, we know that already we have discussed that what is sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is the process of reproduction where two cells which are haploid, clear, having the half the chromosome number of that particular species, unites to form a cell, diploid cell, which ultimately develops into a new individual. So this is about the sexual reproduction. And we also know that sexual reproduction causes variation as there is union of the different cells. So different cells means different set of chromosomes. So union of different sets of chromosomes obviously will create certain variations in the population. Now this random fusion is there. Now before discussing the process and all in sexual reproduction, first of all we will discuss that what is the need for the sexual reproduction. Already we have learned that in asexual reproduction, the process of asexual reproduction, and there they are producing the new organism. It is very easy one, it is uniparental, less complex, quick, clear. So there are several advantages, but why we need sexual reproduction? So that we will discuss first and later on the process. Already we have discussed the variation. The cause of variation is the error in the DNA copying. Clear? And this variation is very important. That also we have discussed what is the cause of the variation, that is error in DNA copying. And why it is so important? Because variation causes evolution. Variation helps a population to adapt with the changing environment. So variation is very essential for the sustenance of a population. So variation already we have discussed what the importance and and how variation occurs. Now if we go on for the cause of variation, that is the error in the DNA copying, it is very much accidental. Clear? This error, one of the major cause of variation which we have discussed earlier is the error in DNA copying, and we know that error in DNA copying is absolutely an accidental process, accidental event. Clear? It's not that it is a normal procedure. So when it is accidental, clear, the organism, but if it is an accidental event, it is not that a population may have it, may not have it, most of the organism will not have it, clear, as it is not a normal process. So this variation within a population will be extremely limited or extremely restricted, clear, which the organism, so to create more variation in a population so that it may help in its adaptation, so that it may help in its evolution, ultimately a mode of reproduction has to be generated which will cause variation, because accidental or error in DNA copying, that may lead to a very dangerous effect also. That may lead to the death of the organism also. So it is not a very dependent process. So they have to find out a dependent process where there will be variation, clear, and that will not be, generally not be fatal. Now if we go on for us, and for these the sexual reproduction came into being, because suppose the DNA error occurred, these variation goes on accumulating in an organism. So somehow, and so after the error in DNA copying, after the accumulation of these variation, the if the person survives, that means these changes which occurred due to DNA copying is not a fatal one. Now, if we can, so suppose DNA error in DNA copying occurred and it is getting accumulated. Clear? It is getting accumulated generation after generation. So next generation may have a new set of error. Clear? And thus it is getting accumulated in the generation after generation. So somehow, if these two persons or two individuals can unite, clear, their variation also will get united. And already we had proved that because this person is or this individual is living, that means this variation is not a very fatal variation. So when there is an admixture of this type of variation, clear, which is not a fatal, and so there may be a variation which, and this may create a variation which will be help the organism to perinate, to evolve. So the way in which this variation can accumulate, clear, this variation can be accumulated is the sexual reproduction. So in sexual reproduction, when two cells will unite, one cell is coming from one parent and other cell is coming from other parent, so they are having certain set of variation. This parent is having certain set of variation and that parent is also having certain set of variation. Now when those two unites, we will have a lots of variation, and these variations are not fatal, these variation not very dangerous, because that individual survived and that individual also survived. So this will accumulate and that will cause more variation. So sexual reproduction will be the mode where we can accumulate more and more variation, clear, which will help in our adaptation, evolution. But the problem is that sexual reproduction is the union of two cells. Now suppose we have the somatic cells. Our somatic cells have a chromosome number which is diploid. Suppose our somatic human being, somatic cells contains 46 chromosomes. Now if these two somatic cells happen to unite, then what will happen? The chromosome number will be 92. So there will be no constancy in the chromosome number. Clear? So there is no constancy in the chromosome number of the species will be maintained. So we have to get a certain process. We have to find out certain process where this chromosome number can be halved. And that is why a special mode of cell division, that is meiosis. Meiosis is the reduction division. It is a special mode of cell division which is occurring in the reproducing cell where the chromosome numbers get halved. So once the chromosome number gets halved, if these two type cell unites, then obviously ultimately the chromosome number will be maintained. So suppose it is a human cell, if chromosome number is halved, then one of the cell will have 23 chromosome, other cell will also have 23 chromosome. Now if these two cells unite, then ultimately that 46 chromosome number will be restored. So a new type of cell division, that is reduction division, which is meiosis, started to happen. Because if this chromosome number is not halved, then it will go on doubling, and as a result a huge amount of inconsistency, there will be different DNA machinery. Clear, DNA machinery will not work properly, so whole lot will be meshed. So reduction division came, meiosis, where the chromosome number is reduced, and finally when they unites, there is a maintenance of constant chromosome number in the population. So in sexual reproduction, this gametes started forming. By reduction division, they started forming specialized cells which are called gametes. Clear? In a higher organism, these gametes are generally of two types. One is large non-motile, which is called egg, the female gamete, and other is the small motile, which is called sperm, the male gamete. Now, during sexual reproduction, what happens? These two gametes, this large non-motile female gamete or egg, fuses with the small motile male gamete, which is sperm, and both having the haploid chromosome number. When they fuses, clear, they produces a diploid cell called zygote, and zygote now divides and redivides to form new organism.